How much does a kitchen remodel cost? Here's the answer nobody wants to hear about kitchen remodel costs and why I refuse to give you a number until we talk. Look, I know that's probably disappointing. You came here wanting me to just give you a straight up answer, right? You want me to say kitchen remodels cost X and be done with it. But here's the thing, there's no way I can give you an answer without meeting you, without going through a decision-making process and without figuring out what your pain points are and understanding, how large your kitchen is, what style of cabinetry we want to use, etc., etc. Some contractors will just throw out generic numbers just to get you off the phone, but that's not really how we work. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why kitchen remodel costs vary so wildly, what you actually get at different price points, and most importantly, how to budget for zero regrets. Now, I can definitely speak in some generic ranges. We've done kitchens for as little as $35,000 on the really low end, and we've done them for up to $150,000. But here's what I haven't told you yet. There's a massive difference between what you get at each of those price points. And understanding that difference is key to making sure you don't end up with a buyer's remorse 5 years from now. Point number one, why there's no simple answer and why that's actually good news. You know what really frustrates me? When I see other contractors giving instant quotes over the phone, it's like asking a doctor to diagnose you through a text message. It's just not how quality work gets done. Let me tell you about two recent projects that perfectly illustrate why there's no simple answer. Last month, we completed a kitchen for $38,000. The homeowners were empty nesters who loved their layout but needed updated finishes. They kept the existing footprint the same. We refaced their cabinets with new doors and drawer fronts and added quartz countertops and updated their appliances. It was a beautiful transformation. That same week, we finished another project for $92,000. Different couple, similar age, but completely different needs. Their 1980s kitchen had a terrible layout, couldn't have two people in there without them bumping into each other. We had to move walls, relocate plumbing, rewire electrical, create a completely custom storage solution because the wife was an avid baker who needed specialized organization. Now, according to recent industry research, major renovations with structural changes and high-end materials typically start at $75,000, and that aligns perfectly with what we see. But here's what the research doesn't tell you. The hidden cost that often surprises homeowners, things like permits, unexpected plumbing issues, and when we open up walls, or electrical upgrades that are required by different codes. The contractors who give you instant quotes, they're either inexperienced or they're planning to hit you with change orders later. The ones who start at $45,000 and somehow end up at $75,000 like all the other bids by the time we're done. We've heard all those horror stories. The lipstick on a kitchen problem, why cheap options cost more long term. Now let's talk about something I call the lipstick on a kitchen problem. There are a lot of remodeling options out there. You can paint your cabinets, you can do what's called refacing, you can do sometimes a mixed mash of the two. Maybe you paint and add new countertops and a new sink. There's a lot of different options out there. But here's the thing, a lot of these options are just kind of like putting lipstick on a kitchen. It doesn't really get to the core of what your issues are with it. You get an updated look, but it doesn't typically address any layout issues or functionality problems. I had a client call me last year who had painted her cabinets 3 years earlier. She spent about $8,000 on the project, new paint, new hardware, even added some crown molding. It looked great for about 18 months, but then the paint started to chip around the handles, the doors. But then the paint started chipping around the handles. The doors weren't closing properly because the hinges were old. And she realized she still had the same storage problems that she always had. When we sat down to design her new kitchen, she said something that stuck with me. I wish I had just saved that $8,000 and put it towards doing it right the first time. Whoa. And that's exactly what the research shows. According to industry data, basic remodels in the $15,000 to $30,000 range often require significant updates again within about 5 to 7 years, while full remodels typically last 15 to 20 years. You're not saving money with the cheaper options, you're just spending that cost over multiple disappointing projects. We do refacing, but it's for a very specific client that wants that. Usually they're planning to move in the next few years and they just just want to freshen things up for resale. But even then, you can still do new drawer glides and hinges with a refacing package, but usually by the time we get to that point, the cost is like similar to what brand new cabinets would cost, because it's like 80% of that value. Point number 3, the real price breakdown, what you actually get at each level. So let's break down what you actually get at different price points, because this is where a lot of confusion comes from. At that $35,000 range, and those are kind of fewer and far between projects. A lot of times clients are doing some of the work themselves. Maybe they're doing the demo, maybe they're gonna paint at the end, things like that. Maybe they're doing final cleanup. It's not really who we usually work with, because usually our clients, they want that full service package. They don't want to be swinging a hammer and doing things on their own. Now, our sweet spot, and this is just where most of our clients end up, is in the $65,000 to $95,000 range. And that's a turnkey project. So that includes everything from tearing out, new cabinetry, new countertops, all the trades, electrical, drywall, plumbing, carpentry. It's the full package. According to recent research from multiple industry sources, this aligns with national averages for mid-range to high-end remodels. In Florida, for example, similar projects range $60,000 to $100,000. While in Tampa specifically, they can range anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000. But on the other side of the spectrum, we've also done projects up to $150,000. And those include a full turnkey package, and typically we're getting into some other rooms in that price range. Maybe we have an open concept floor plan and our flooring extends in these other rooms. Maybe we're changing trim out throughout the whole level, and then that, also got to change your doors. So typically that price range, we're into some other rooms. But here's what's interesting, and this is something most contractors won't tell you. Cabinets typically represent 40% of your kitchen remodel. So in a $75,000 project, you're looking at about 30 grand, and that's just for the cabinetry. That's why quality and customization level of your cabinets makes such a huge difference in your final cost. Now, if you're thinking, Matt, this sounds great, but I need to know if this approach makes sense for my specific situation and budget, that's exactly the conversation we should have. I offer free design consultations where we can walk through your space, understand your pain points, and give you a realistic picture of what your dream kitchen would actually cost. You can schedule that by clicking the link in the description below. The blank slate advantage. Why custom layout trumps everything. Here's where we get to the real value of doing a full remodel. And this is just something you just can't get with painting or refacing. When we start from a blank slate, we can customize a layout to exactly what you need. It's not just that we're throwing in random cabinets. We go through a design process to understand really what your pain points are and what are you struggling with storing. How do you actually use your kitchen, and what items would be useful in helping you? For example, are you a baker? If you're a baker, there's all kinds of organizations items like mixer lifts, bread proofing drawers, all kinds of cool stuff. But it's really a better option if you want something that's totally tailored to you. I had a client recently, empty nesters, whose kids had moved out. The wife loved to bake for her grandkids when they visited, but her old kitchen had zero counter space. Every time she baked, she was carrying hot pans all the way across the kitchen, dodging around the island, trying not to bump into her husband. In her design, we created a dedicated baking workstation with a marble countertop for her pastry work, pull-out shelves for her KitchenAid mixer, and specialized storage for all her baking sheets and cooling racks. We even included a proof drawer for her bread making. Now, when the grandkids come over, she can bake with them right at that station while her husband prepares dinner at the main island. That's the kind of customization you can't get with surface level updates. All the research shows that custom storage solutions can increase a kitchen efficiency by 40 to 60%. But more importantly, they just make your daily life better. Point number 5, the zero regrets formula, how to budget like a pro. So let's talk about the zero regrets option, because this is really what it comes down to. As far as not having regrets, if I were gonna spend money on remodeling a kitchen, I would make darn sure that I have the funds to do it right and get it fully customized to my needs. Some of those other options don't last as long as a full remodel. There's a client that might be good for, somebody who's about to move, somebody who's trying to sell a house and just get it off the books quick. But as far as a long-term option, we typically want people in the full replacement category. Here's the thing about budgeting that most people get wrong. They focus on upfront cost instead of the cost per year of enjoyment. So let's say you spend 80 grand on a full kitchen remodel that lasts 20 years. That's $4,000 per year for a space you use every single day. Compare that to spending 25 grand on a surface level update that just needs redone again in 7 years. That's actually $3,500 per year, and you still don't have any of the functionality that you really wanted. Plus, there's an emotional cost. I can't tell you how many clients have told me they wish they'd just done it right the first time. One client said, every time I opened those painted cabinet doors, I was reminded that I just kind of settled for less. The zero regrets formula is simple. Figure out what you really want, understand what it costs to do it right, and then make sure you have the budget to execute it. Don't compromise the things that matter most to you and affect your daily life just to hit an arbitrary price point that you made up in your head. So remember, kitchen remodel costs vary because every kitchen and every family is different. The contractors giving you the instant quotes are usually just missing the point entirely. Here's what we covered. Generic pricing is pretty much meaningless without understanding your specific needs. Those lipstick solutions often cost more in the long run. The $65,000 to $95,000 range gets you a true turnkey transformation. Custom layout design is where the real value lives, and you should budget for zero regrets, not just the lowest price. If you found value in this video, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. If you're wondering whether you'll need permits for your kitchen remodel, that's exactly what we're going to cover in the next video.